all of the videos I put up on my page are essentially saying the same thing. So I kind of wanted to go into detail on the differences between certain aspects and how to learn on your own, how to figure out different aspects of the self, right? And so I wanted to start with the ego and the higher self. And these are two different, I'm differentiating, but these are all parts of the self. You are whole, you are one, right? You are whole. So, but there are different layers to you, like an onion. And the ego is the most outer layer, and that's the delusional part, and that's the part we've identified ourselves with. And so I wanted to just make it clear how to differentiate from the ego and differentiate between the ego and the higher self, because I think the higher self or the enlightened self is it's like it's made into this bigger thing. Like, we don't have access to it in this world, when essentially, not essentially, we do have access to it. It is us. So it's just a matter of seeing it, waking up, being conscious, and deciding to which side we're going to live through, right? Because to live through the ego that we've constructed in this world, is to live a life of despair, to live in fear, to live in guilt and shame, and all those things that we're trying to lift ourselves out of. And living through our higher self is living the life of joy and peace and love. And this is in any circumstance. You know what I'm saying? We look at people's circumstances, we look at their outer circumstances, and think that is where we want to be, right? We're like, oh, if I have this, if I have enough money, if my life looks a certain way, then I'll be okay. And that is not true. That is not true. You can be okay now, however your life is looking. Like, it doesn't matter what your life looks like. It matters how you feel in your life. It matters your joy and your peace come from your inner state of being, right? And how you choose to see life. Because our ego is based in fear now, but these are all choices. Egos can be deconstructed, or we can kill, you kill off the ego. Talk about ego death all the time. And death is just an ending of one thing, so for another thing to be reborn. Death is not real in terms of complete endings. You know what I'm saying? We're always living, we're always going, we're always alive, right? So there has to be a death of one thing for there to be a rebirth of another thing. So when you kill off the ego, you reborn, your ego is reborn, but through the foundation of love instead of fear, because now you have then that awareness, and now you can now that you deconstruct or you kill off that ego, you can build it up again. You can teach yourself again. You can grow again. You can raise yourself up again. Just like a baby, like from a baby, you raise yourself again with different beliefs, with a different belief system, with a different reality. And this belief system that you establish through love, through the love of self, through the love of your life, it's going to be reflected in your outer world, no matter what it looks like. Like your idea of success will change, because your success is now being constructed from what you love and what you how you want to feel. So before, when you thought $1 million was going to make you happy, right? You could totally change your mind and say, I want to live on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and you realize that will make you happy more so than the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's about reconstructing your perspective, and that is a choice. You know what I'm saying? We choose in this world. We are co-creators. Like I said before, we are fractals of the whole, and like God, we create our reality, and we create through choice. And because we are living through this ego that feels lowly, that feels like it is out of control, we don't realize that we're making choices every second of the day, right? We don't realize we're making choices on how we want to live and exist in this world. But that's what we're doing. And when we come in, when we attune to ourselves, we can consciously create the life that we want by making the choices that we want to make. And when I say choices, I don't always mean physical choices. Everything starts with the mind, right? So the energy that is behind that thing. So for example, if you are in conflict if there's a certain conflict that can possibly be brewing between you and another person, it is your choice whether you engage within that conflict or you choose to rise above that conflict. And when I say rise above that conflict, I don't mean you are better than that person in any way. I don't mean that, oh, that person is choosing this I mean you choose to not engage with the conflict, and you choose peace over your conflict, right? And you choose forgiveness. And forgiveness means complete acceptance of who that person is and where they are, right? But it means that you choose not to engage with that. And you choosing not to engage with it in your mind first, because that's what everything is. We think that, if we just ignore that thing, say there's a certain conflict and you just ignore it, but in your mind you're constantly fighting with that person. You're like, oh, that son of a bitch, da 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 this, da 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 that. You're not seeing that person, right? You're not seeing them for who they are. They are also children of God, and they also in the same state as you, living their life and their journey, right? But you choose to see them as the op, and they're not in opposition. They're not towards you. They're just living their life, and that's where they are. So if you can understand that that's where they are, and you can forgive them for you and for them, you know what I'm saying? You forgive them for you because you're choosing not to engage in that conflict. You realize that conflict is not real. You realize that conflict is a construct of the ego, and you don't want to engage with people's ego. Then you let that go. You know what I'm saying? Then the conflict is not real in your mind. When you choose to take on an energy that is of a lower vibration, you are choosing conflict over peace. You know what I'm saying? And whether it plays out in the physical or not, it plays out energetically. You know what I'm saying? So you can be holding on to resentment for somebody, and that affect you negatively, whether it plays out physically or not. You think you surpassed it because you're not engaging with it, but you are engaged with it because you're engaging with it in your mind. You know what I'm saying? You're engaged with it within your energy. But truly forgiving means accepting the situation and letting it go. You know what I'm saying? And not wrestling with it, not holding on to resentment in yourself, and that will bring you peace. Every time. And it's like, it's really that simple. And it's really that transformative. And we don't realize, like, that will really transform your life. That will really bring peace into your life, because, it's a choice at the level of conception. So instead of choosing the conflict, you choose peace, and you choose to take that energy and focus it somewhere else. And you focus it on what you want rather than what you don't want. So that's, in that sense, you're training your ego, right? You're training your ego to see as your higher self, because your higher self knows that conflict is not even real, because the ego is not real. The ego is just a construct of fear, and fear is not real. When the light, you are the light, right? Your true self is the light. When the light sheds upon that darkness, or upon that fear, upon that ego, it shows itself, and it shows it to not be real. It shows it to be a construct of fear. So your higher self has already let that go. But when you attune your ego to your higher self, then you let that go completely. Like you realize it is not real. And you can see that person. You can see the situation. You don't have to see the situation. The situation is gone. But you can see that person for who they are beyond their era. You know what I'm saying? Past their era. You see them for who they are. That they're a spiritual being having a human experience and going through what they're going through at the moment. And that's it. You know? And this takes practice. This takes anything we're learning takes practice. It takes repetition. It takes patience and compassion with yourself to do this over and over again, because conflict is going to come up over and over again in your life, right? And it's a matter of taking the time to wake up and see, okay, am I going to take this on, or am I not going to take this on, right? And even in just realizing that you're fine.